Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Good morning, everybody. As I am still downloading all the graphics for this show, because I was way too busy with a lot of stuff. Good morning. It is Wednesday. As I'm trying to figure this out, this is a terrible start of the show. I was gonna say I'm usually on Mondays, but I haven't been on Mondays for a very long time, and usually. Liv has been on the show on Wednesdays. Jesse has been doing the shows on Wednesdays for a long time. Why is this not working? There we go. My Mondays have been looking weird lately. 2 weeks ago, I was in LA for the NHL Rookie Tournament. And then last week, I was sick almost all week, including Monday. And 2 days ago, I was actually in Miami watching a pro beach volleyball tournament. It was awesome. It was great. But again, Jesse had to take over for me. And I felt so bad that I said, I'll do one on Wednesday. I think my first ever show I did, Guerilla Sports Daily, was also on a Wednesday. So I guess it all comes back. It's all full circle. Beautiful, beautiful. I've got a lot of coffee, so I'll be ready for the rest of the show. Don't worry. And let's start the show with Colorado Avalanche, because they played another preseason game yesterday, losing 6-1 to the Golden Knights, the Vegas Golden Knights. It was their third loss in 3 preseason games, and a game with a lot of first-team players on the ice, a game with a lot of penalties, and like I said, a game with a lot of goals in the Avs net. But like all preseason games, the outcome of the game is not important, not really important. What you really want to look at is how the players are doing. And one player that really stood out was Nikolai Kovalenko. The Russian guy played on the top line with Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko Rantanen, and he stood out. He was really good. And I know it's just a preseason, and I think the preseason is way too long. I'll get to that later. But it's very interesting to see these players, these young players, get a chance in these preseason games. And like, there's a lot of players who are like on the verge of making it to the first team, and then showing out in those preseason games. In the last few games, you had Sam Malinsky, you had Callum Ritchie, and now you have Nikolai Kovalenko. And especially for a team like the Avalanche, that is interesting, because head coach Jared Bednar keeps saying, this is not a development league. The players need to be ready. You have to earn your spot. And still, these young players have a chance to break out and get a spot on the roster. Especially Kovalenko yesterday. Bednar said a lot about him, praised him a lot, and this is what he had to say after the game.
We still got 2 games left that we're going to experiment with the middle stat line. So there's a couple of guys that I want to see on that line yet before we make decisions on that. But it's like, if you're talking top 6 guys, you know, like, he's the one guy that's making the push for that position right now. You know, like, it's not just the offensive side of it. That has a lot to do with it. First of all, you got to be able to make plays with those guys and help produce, and I think he's shown that he can do that in a short window, and hopefully that can continue. But he's been pretty responsible on the other side of the puck too, and you have to be, because if you're playing in the top 6, you're probably playing against the other team's top 6 as well.
Yeah, playing on the top 6, that would be big. He's probably making the team, and he's pushing to be in the top 6 of this team. That's very big. Jesse Montano and Megan Angley, our Avs reporters, also interviewed Kovalenko himself. He came straight from Russia a few months ago, and you can tell that he's definitely not very comfortable in English yet. And I kind of feel for the guy, because I'm an immigrant myself. I'm from the Netherlands, and I know what it's like to be very smart in your own country, like Gloria said in Modern Family. I feel that same way sometimes, and I'm sure Kovalenko also feels that way. So we don't have any clip. Actually, we do have a clip because I want to show you, even in a foreign language, he's smart about hockey. He knows exactly how to play the game, and this clip really demonstrates that.
What I say, like, we have just scored a lot of scores, a lot of chance to score, but we didn't. But another team did. So
there's nothing more true than that. We didn't score, and they did, so they win. That's how hockey is played. That's how it works, and he knows that. That's all kidding. All joking aside, I hope his English improves also for himself, so that he feels a little more comfortable doing these interviews, and so that we can really get to know this guy off the ice, because on the ice he's clearly shown himself. In the next few days, maybe even today, Jared Bednar is going to make a lot of cuts, he said yesterday in an interview, or in the press conference. There's going to be a lot of changes still to this roster. There's a lot of young guys right now. There's a few like Kovalenko, Sam Malinsky, Callum Ritchie, who are doing really well, but there's also definitely some players who are going to be outright cut, and this is what Bednar had to say about that.
Well, there's lots that needs to be cleaned up, but I'm not going to jump the gun on that. Like, we're going to make a lot of cuts, a lot, and then we'll dress a lineup that's closer to what we'll probably see in the final 2 games, and we'll go from there.
All right, well, that is it for Avalanche today. At 1:30, Jesse, JJ, and Megan will be talking everything Avalanche on Off Ice, so make sure to tune in at 1:30. They know a lot more than me, so definitely check that out. Still sticking with the NHL, though, Montreal Canadiens winger Patrik Laine will be out for 2 to 3 months after a nasty hit in the preseason game against the Toronto Maple Leafs on Saturday. There's a lot to unpack here. So first, let's just look at what happened. We have a picture, I believe. We don't, because, like I said, where do we have that? Do we have that picture? I can't find it anywhere. Well, I guess you got to believe me. He was hit badly in his knee. He was skating through center ice with the puck, catching speed, when he got cornered by 2 players. One of them did that by sticking out his knee, and it was a knee-on-knee hit with Laine, his knee being bent backwards. Maybe it's good that we're not showing that, because Chloe, who's running the show today, said that is horrible, and we gotta tell people before we show them. So I guess you're in luck today. The guy that did that was Cedric Pare, a guy who plays his games in the AHL for the Toronto Marlies. He's been trending on hockey websites for days now because people want to know about him. In interviews, he said that he didn't mean to do it, all that. I don't think he meant to do what he did. I think the difference in the level of hockey is just way too big in these preseason games between AHL players, young players who are just not ready for this level of hockey yet, and the best NHL players in the world. Patrik Laine was acquired or traded to the Canadiens a few months ago, and it was a big trade. He was a top 6 skater who's going to be really important for this team. And then you play against a guy who's only played his games in the AHL. He was just not fast enough to do anything about that. And that brings me to my next point. Like, maybe there's just too many preseason games in general. And I'm not the only one that says that. There's a lot of people that say this. Another instance of an injury was Artemin Panarin, who had to leave the New York Rangers game, preseason game, versus the New Jersey Devils after just 4 shifts with a lower back injury. Luckily, that seems to be all right. But in the game before that, the Rangers lost Philippe Chitil, who just got back from an injury that had him sit out most of last season. He returned in that same game, But why do we play so many preseason games if this is what can happen? And if we play preseason games, shouldn't it be all younger or lower level players, or all the best players? I don't know if you want to do either. And of course, preseason is good to catch some speed, to understand the new tactics, the new play style, especially for players coming in, young players who are knocking on the door, like a Sam Malinsky, like a Nikolai Kovalenko. But there's also a lot of players who are just filling in the blanks that are just not on that level. I mean, all those injuries are all different situations, but this is what can happen in preseason games. The Pittsburgh Penguins, another reason why preseason games maybe shouldn't be played, they had to reschedule a preseason game against the Detroit Red Wings after their plane had problems. Another problem, they were playing 5 preseason games in 6 days. There was no way to reschedule because they were playing way too many preseason games in way too short of a time. Why are they playing so many games, especially in such a short time? I don't think it's necessary to get to know the team and to see who will make the team to get ready for the season. Pierre LeBrun, I have a tweet here and it's below me, so you can read it all. So I have to recenter a little bit. He's a Canadian sports writer and commentator, and he tweeted this about after the Laine hit. You wonder again why so many useless preseason games are needed in this day and age. The NHL and the NHL PA really need to think about reducing preseason games in the next collective bargaining agreement in 2 years. All right, I think my point is made. There's too many preseason games. They don't matter. No one cares about the outcome. You want to see some players do well, but this is not the way, especially with how many games are being played. And Laine, luckily, it's only 2 to 3 months. It's looking a lot better than people were expecting. Like I said, he just came from the Columbus Blue Jackets, traded to the Montreal Canadiens. With the Blue Jackets, he was out for 6 months. He was in the NHL PA Players Assistance Program. We have some comments here. Don't you guys ever sleep? No, we don't, because there's always sports news. And preseason should be 4 games like the NFL. I agree, but even in the NFL, maybe those 4 games are even too much. I feel like preseason games just don't matter enough to play so many. And with the NFL also, those guys are so prone to injury. Why do you let them play so many unimportant games? Like I said, Laine, he was in the NHL PA Players Assistance Program for the last 6 months, probably seemingly for mental health reasons. And I really hope that this doesn't mess him up too much. And I hope he's really back on it in 2 to 3 months. Then on to some short news, starting with the Colorado Rapids. Of course, Dutch guy, I got to talk about soccer. And we have a good team here. And if you haven't been paying attention, that's a surprise to you. I know. The Colorado Rapids reached the MLS playoffs for the first time in 3 years last Saturday after a win against Toronto. And it's impressive. It's even more impressive thinking about the fact that they were the worst, that they had their worst season ever just last season. They really turned it around. Head coach Chris Armas, new goaltender Zach Steffen, and a new left winger Georgi Mihailovic, together with some of the players who were decent last year, who are playing a lot better this year. It's really cool to see. Tonight, they're playing the number 1 in the Western Conference, LA Galaxy. They are number 4 now. They clinched the playoff seed, but it's still very interesting to see what they're going to do until those playoffs start. So if you haven't been paying attention or fangirling over this team, this is the time to step on board of the bandwagon and act like you've been here this whole time, because it's a good time. Then to a little bit of NFL. Wide receiver Davante Adams might be on his way out at the Las Vegas Raiders. He requested a trade with the NFL yesterday, and the Raiders were very quick to say, we are open to a trade. It's crazy. He was acquired by the Raiders after a huge trade from the Green Bay Packers in 2022, just 2 seasons ago. And now he's been linked to the New York Jets, where he could be playing again with quarterback Aaron Rodgers, who he was playing with in Green Bay. We still have to see what the trade would look like, because his contract in Vegas would pay him over $36 million per year next season and the season after that. So we'll see what needs to be changed and how his contract needs to be structured for that to even happen. It's an expensive player. Then one more short news. DU hockey starts the season in first seed. They've been voted first in the preseason poll for the 2024-2025 season. The Pioneers clinched the NCAA title last year, beating Boston College. It was their second title in 3 years and their 10th NCAA title overall. And with that, they are the best college hockey team ever. More than any other program. I think they overtook Minnesota. And it was their second in 3 years, like I said. So lots of good hockey in Colorado to look forward to. Together with the Avs, definitely also keep an eye out for DU hockey. Then moving to a sad story. Pete Rose passed away a few days ago. The legendary baseball player was 83 when he passed away. And he was one of the most influential baseball players, certainly of his time. He is still the all-time leader in hits with 4,356 hits. He played from 1963 to 1986, mostly with the Cincinnati Reds. And the last 2 seasons that he played, he was also the coach for the Cincinnati Reds. Then he turned to just coach from 86 to 89 before he got permanently banned from the sport for betting on games, including his own games. He maintained that he was innocent until in 2004, when he wrote his memoirs, where he admitted that he actually betted. Here's the Dutch guy in me coming in. Bet. Thank you, Chloe. Where he bet on his own games. It's like Steph Curry betting on NBA games, or Patrick Mahomes being included in a betting scandal. That's how big this guy was. And there was always talks of whether Rose should be admitted to the Baseball Hall of Fame. The thing is, he was permanently banned, so there was no talks about that. That was just impossible. But now that he passed away, he's not permanently banned anymore, because that disappears when you pass away. So should he be admitted to the Baseball Hall of Fame? People are talking about it now, but 4 years ago, a spokesperson for the Hall of Fame already answered that question, and I want to talk about that a little bit, just to clear everyone's minds again. You can't ban a person who doesn't exist anymore, but what the spokesperson said is the decision will stay in place even after his death. Like I said, he didn't say this in the last few days. He said this 4 years ago, so it's not like a sensitive thing, he said. But it's weird. This is one of the best baseball players of all time, and he cannot be admitted to the Hall of Fame for something that he did. It was a bad thing, but like, now that he passed away, I'm kind of scared that he himself, his legacy, is also sort of fading away. No one's going to talk to him anymore. No one's going to talk about him anymore. No one's going to mention him when we talk about the Hall of Fame. On the other hand, if you do something like this, like something this scandalous in sports, maybe there's no place for you in the Hall of Fame at all, no matter what you've done. We can talk about this on and on, but I think what's more important is what he himself would have said. And he did say something about this a few weeks ago with KTLA. It was his last interview. This was what he said about being admitted to the Hall of Fame or not.
I don't see much sense in putting me on the ballot after I die, because for a player to go into his or her Hall of Fame, it's more or less for your family and it's more or less for your fan base. And I'm big on both of those two things right there. And I know most of the people who rooted for me my whole career would love to see me in the Hall of Fame as a living player, not as someone that's 10 feet under. And I always thought about that. What good would it do my family if they put me in the Hall of Fame after I die? I can't think of anything good about that.
Yeah, so he was clear about how he felt about it. He doesn't need to be in the Hall of Fame anymore because he passed away. It's always weird seeing a last interview of someone, especially if it like forebodes something. Him talking about not being admitted to or not wanting to be admitted to the Baseball Hall of Fame after his death. And here we are talking about it just a few days after he passed away. But I guess we can put it to rest because he did. It's sad how someone who was that big in the sport of baseball fell off his pedestal and in no way ever got back to that level of being revered. May he rest in peace. Then moving on to the last story of today, the Kentucky Wildcats are set to have an incredible start of the season. The Wildcats, one of the most iconic basketball programs with a lot of history, are adding more history once again. They sold 20,000 tickets for the Big Blue Madness, the big showcase night for the Wildcats men's and women's basketball program. It was sold out in 24 minutes. I have to say it didn't cost any money except for like some fees. So it was pretty easy to sell out, but still 20,000 tickets for something that's not a game, by the way. This is just a showcase of the new teams for the season. Also new coaches, by the way, because they have new coaches this season. But what's really cool is that during this Big Blue Madness, they're going to have a special LED floor. And I think we have a video of that. Yeah, that one, Chloe, thank you. Where we can see what it looks like. So this is the normal floor, and it changes into this LED floor with crazy effects. That is so cool. Imagine being in a stadium and seeing, I mean, hockey fans know what this is like, but that's under the ice. This is the floor itself. This is going to be so much more vibrant than what you can see in a hockey game. Really cool, and it shows how much just fan experiences are evolving, especially in the last, let's say, 5 years. I love that because we're really stepping into a new era of sports where it's not just about the sport anymore. It's about everything around it. This floor is made by ASB glass floor. It has been used a few times before, including during the NBA All-Star game last season. We also have a video of how that looked. Yeah, that other video by the Wildcats looked a little bit more like a render. This is what it actually looked like during the NBA All-Star game. Can you imagine seeing that in real life? That's just crazy. And there's a lot more stuff like this. There's not just in stadiums. There's, for example, the Sphere in Las Vegas, where we had the NHL draft. But we also have the Dome in Los Angeles. We have the Cosm in Dallas. And if you haven't seen those two, here's some videos. My wife was in Dallas 2 weeks ago. Yeah, click that one, Chloe. This is what that looks like. She was not in the Netherlands with me. She was in Dallas watching this big screen as if she was there in real time. And we've got another video. That is not an NBA game. Like, she was not in the stadium. She was in the Dome, or in the Cosm, as they call it in Dallas. That is so crazy. This is all an LED screen. The CEO, Jeff Terry, former NFL player, explained that he could even just download a picture in high quality, put it in the system, and do this, and zoom in and all that. He actually did that for them with the Sistine Chapel. in Italy, and they could just infinitely zoom in and look at all the details, and it's all around you. The only problem I have with all of this is that all of that fan experience costs more and more money. It's crazy to buy tickets for a game nowadays. And even if you want to watch a game here in the Cosm in Dallas, those game tickets cost $22 to watch a screen. And the screen is crazy, but that was what you used to pay for sports tickets to go to the stadium, to go to the game itself. Now those tickets are so much more expensive. Season tickets for the NFL cost between $1,000 and $2,000 for 17 games. I know that's the NFL, the most popular game in the country, but if you have to borrow money to go to those games and the teams make billions upon billions of dollars, it just feels wrong, you know? And I know that's how the economy works and that's how capitalism works, but I'm a little afraid of what's still to come. It's amazing what you see during games nowadays. But who will be able to afford those games eventually? And are we all just going to be in debt to watch those games? Anyways, that's all I have to say about that. This was Guerilla Sports Daily for today. We have Off Field at 11 a.m. with BK and Nate. They're both from home. So you'll see the two faces next to each other, talking to each other. Great stuff. And like I said, we have Off Ice at 1:30 with Jesse, Megan, and JJ here in the podcast studio. Definitely listen to that because they'll have a lot more to say also about the Laine injury and about the preseason for the Avs right now. Maybe we'll have heard from Bednar at that time of who will be cut and who won't be. We'll see. Thank you, and have a great day. I'll see you next week.